Gindo's Games!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Gendo Keshi here with another League of Legends guide for you. Today we're gonna get a bit meta and... well, I just gave away the topic, didn't I? Yes, that's right, today we're talking about the meta. First though, let's get some definitions clear, as the meta is a pretty abstract concept. What is the meta? Well, a meta, or more accurately here, a meta game, is the game beyond the game. No, not a game within a game. That would make for a very strange movie. The metagame comprises all the rules and knowledge about the game as created and described by people, where the game is only what is programmed for you to play. For a more concrete explanation, let's look at League of Legends itself. What does LoL require of you? Well, each team has 5 players, and the goal of each team is to destroy the other team's nexus. In order to break the nexus, there's a few buildings in the way you have to crush first, and that's really about it. The game does not require you to kill your enemies or minions, and heck, the game doesn't even require you to buy items. Most notably though, the game does not require you, in any way, shape, or form, to fill the strict lane positions we see today. AD carry, support, jungle, all these positions are constructs created by the community because they are generally understood to be optimal. They might not be, necessarily, and in many cases they certainly aren't required. You could go in with a team of all AD casters, for example, and have a fairly high probability of winning, depending on what level of play you're in and how well the enemy understands your strategy. Because that's what it comes down to, strategy. The standard meta of AD carry and support in bottom lane, AP carry mid, bruiser top, and jungler currently presents what the pros see as the most efficient, safest way to work through the laning phase, with few weaknesses in and of itself, while still coming out in the later phases of the game with a solid team composition that can win a fight. And despite seeming static, there's still plenty of variation within it, but we'll talk about that in a bit. First, let's examine the positions of a standard meta team and why they're there, shall we? It begins by looking at the map. There are 4 fairly distinct, constant sources of gold and XP on the map. The 3 lanes and the jungle. And yet, there are 5 players on a team. Because pros want to maximize as many champions' potential as possible, the 5th player does not take any gold, opting to run as a support and getting their gold from items. Realize, however, that this is really only relevant at the highest levels of play. If your AD carry is missing every other minion kill, then it really isn't quite so important that the support not take any. Speaking of the AD carry, let's talk about that. An AD carry is arguably the most important member of the team. Attack damage is the most efficient way to destroy turrets and, ultimately, the nexus. It has the advantage of having an excessively short cooldown between shots, because let's be honest, that's what attack speed is, and they do not require any mana or other resources to do. And, conveniently, that excessively high damage per second can apply to your enemies as well for face-crushing fun. An AD carry could very well describe Master Yi, Fiora, and other melee champions as well, but pros tend toward AD ranged carries because they are, quite simply, much safer to farm with. Because AD carries are generally fairly weak at the start of the game, they get to have a lane partner to babysit them. And said babysitter, the support, takes care of warding their lane so that the carry can focus on becoming a powerhouse as quickly as possible. Attack power generally scales better with money than with levels, so having that partner around does not dampen their growth terribly. So, where do we put this duo lane? Well, let's look at this map again, but with objectives on it. Other than towers, it's especially important to control the Baron and the Dragon, but Baron doesn't spawn until later in the game. Putting them in the bottom lane allows you to have more champions right next to the dragon, in case you must fight over it or so you can take it more easily for yourselves. Next, let's look at mid lane. Historically speaking, this has been the place for low mobility champions with high-powered nukes, but has seen plenty of variation, including champions such as Morgana, who push the lane extremely hard so that she can gank constantly, or, more recently, a large number of assassins of both damage types. Anyone who can deal a ton of burst damage to champions or have high utility. This lane is advantageous for all sorts. For those with low mobility, it is the shortest lane, so dangerous ganks can be easily escaped while they gather power to become exceptional nukers. For more mobile assassins, it is, again, the shortest lane, so it can be quickly pushed, allowing time to gank. Usually this lane, or top lane, will house the AP carry, as some amount of ability power damage is necessary on your team unless you want the enemy to shut you down completely with armor. Top lane is the longest lane and is furthest away from the early game action around the dragon. Because of this, top laners usually need to be fairly self-sustained and beefy, able to stay there for a long time and able to escape a gank alive should they be far from their tower at the time. Beefy bruisers who snowball well, such as Garen, Darius, and Renekton, tanks such as Malphite and Singed, and beefy AP carries such as Ryze and Vladimir all excel here. Finally, we mention the jungler, whose main job is to clear the jungle obviously, control the buffs, and to gank. Conveniently, I've already done a video on jungling, so I can link to that here. The jungle too has many options, from tanks like Shen and Rammus, additional AD carries like Tryndamere, and AP carries like Diana, to anything in between. Though many would call this meta stagnant, there's plenty of variation within and around it, like I just mentioned in the jungle. Just look at the pro teams in recent tournaments. While sometimes it's true that they do the same thing over and over again, other times you will find larger compositions, like a global team with Shen, Pantheon, and Twisted Fate, or a long-range poke team with Lux, Nidalee, and the like. Still others will have more subtle changes, like a second champion taking Smite for better objective control, or multiple champions taking Promote prior to its removal to push lanes all over the map at once. And at higher levels of play, we are even seeing lots of lane swapping, putting the AD carry support combo in top or mid lane while the dragon is down to put pressure on one of those solo lanes. Like I said at the start though, the meta is only what the majority thinks is best at any given time, even if it isn't. We see this all the time with what are called flavor of the month champions. Those that suddenly become popular because many think they are really strong, even if nothing has changed about them at all. Many different strategies may in fact be possible and viable, and I encourage you to try them out. However, before you gallivant off to force your crazy ideas down everyone else's throats because I told you to, I have to say, please don't try this in solo queue. People in solo queue are generally quite resistant to change because they want to win, and they know that the standard build works. Unless your whole team agrees to try out your new strategy, then you will likely make them very upset when you try it anyway. Instead, go start a team. Find 4 friends and experiment with them. Even if you aren't all level 30, you can try out cool stuff in normal queue. No problem at all. When concocting strategies though, remember this. These positions are designed to get your team through the laning phase with as much gold as possible. At the end of the day though, the laning phase is short and a vast chunk of your time will be spent fighting as a team. If you're creating a team strategy, remember to think beyond the laning phase and into how you can function afterward. Are you stronger early or late? Why? And what do you do because of it? Do you push your advantage, or do you stall until later? Don't just say, let's all use AP carries and we'll burst people down really fast, a-herpa-de-jerpa-de. You have to think about why that would be good and what your weaknesses are. And that about covers it for this week. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please let me know what you thought with a positive or negative response in the comments below. If I missed anything, please be sure to add that too so everyone can learn. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button as it helps me out immensely, and tell your friends. Enough self-promotion though. Till next time, I've been Gin, and you've been watching me talk about a video game.